Imagine waking in the deep of night, not to the rumble of thunder or the call of strangers, but to the chilling certainty that something unspeakable is coming. Your mother's voice trembles as she tells you to hide, not from the world, but from the horrors tangled within the very heart of your town. 10 years old, following her into cowering darkness, you become a witness to the unraveling of everything safe and familiar. When dawn breaks, silence is all that remains. Everyone you've ever known, your mother, your sister, gone. No rescue, no answers, just a void as cold as the cellar where you hid. What does it mean to survive such devastation? Victor Kavanaugh knows. For 40 years, he has lived not just within Fromville's haunted shadow, but in a world of perpetual loneliness, his history repeating quietly beneath the surface of each day. Victor's trauma is more than a wound. It is the skeleton of his identity. He did not simply endure. His mind remade itself to fit the contours of his endless, solitary nightmare. When Victor first arrived, he was just a child among 47 souls. But as the truth unfurled, it became clear his mother, Miranda, was haunted by visions, fragments of cycles, emblems etched into memory, warnings tied to the suffering of children trapped in a tower. Miranda wasn't driven by paranoia. She glimpsed the town's cold logic, the relentless loop of ruin and loss. On the night when despair overtook Fromville, Miranda tried to shield her children from its legacy. Instructed to stay hidden until morning, Victor survived. But each day since then has only deepened his isolation. Victor Kavanaugh stands as a testament to the weight of inherited suffering, a survivor whose solitude becomes both prison and shield. This is the horror beneath horror, to lose everything and to live on in its shadow forever. His story is not just one of survival against monsters, but of enduring a childhood trauma so profound. Escape itself becomes impossible, and isolation the only companion. Darkness swallowed the path ahead, and Miranda rushed into that void, searching for the tower, searching for escape. Her daughter, Eloise, followed, desperate to keep up. Victor, the youngest, lingered behind, rooted in fear. Neither Miranda nor Eloise ever returned. For Victor, this moment fractured time. To him, it was as if his mother chose the mysteries of the town over her own children, a silent accusation, etched deep in his subconscious. Yet the truth was far more tragic. Miranda ventured out not to abandon, but to save. She died, trying to break the cycle that bound the town, hoping to free her children. Trauma distorted that memory, turning rescue into abandonment. From that day, his emotional development halted. His body aged into adulthood, but part of him seemingly remained frozen at 10 years old. When Victor emerged from the cellar the next morning, he found a silent town, scattered with death and absence. This is why Victor still carries a lunchbox, why he draws with crayons, and why his heart finds comfort in the company of children rather than adults. It's not simple childishness. It's a nervous system gripped by the last night of childhood, perpetually reaching for the warmth that was lost. Victor's story speaks to the invisible scars trauma leaves behind. Sometimes we're not just shaped by loss, we are paused by it. And in Victor's quiet rituals, there echoes the longing of a child still waiting for his mother to return from the darkness. So, what happens when your entire world becomes the source of your pain? Complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or complex PTSD, emerges not from a moment of terror, but from trauma that repeats, deepens, and never lets go. For Victor, trauma was not a chapter of his life. It was the entire book. While traditional PTSD often follows a single, shattering event, complex PTSD unfolds when trauma is prolonged, repeated, and unavoidable. Victor did not find safety after the storm. The storm became his sky, the air he breathed for 40 years. Every loss he endured reopened his earliest wounds. Each new relationship carried grief, because in Victor's world, love and loss were inseparable. The town around him acted as a living mechanism of harm, a place where catastrophe lurked behind every door. There was no chance to learn safety. Instead, Victor's sense of unease turned permanent, organizing his emotions around survival, not stability. This struggle saturates his relationships. Craving connection but fearing devastation, Victor reaches for others, but withdraws before they can abandon him. Isolation becomes his armor, but it's a shield that sharpens his loneliness. This push and pull, longing for attachment but fearing it, echoes the profound disruption complex PTSD inflicts upon the human need for bond and belonging. Look to Victor's drawings, and you see another layer. These are not just marks on paper, but his mind's effort to survive. For Victor, Drawing is not only expression, but also escape, a way to compartmentalize memories too agonizing to hold in consciousness. Each image becomes a map, charting the fractures left by dissociative trauma, where memory splinters into scattered pieces. Victor's story reveals that complex PTSD is not only about what happened, but about what persists. It speaks to the resilience required to live with wounds that never fully close, and to the creativity of the mind, crafting ways to survive in a world where safety can never be taken for granted. Each act of distancing begins before anyone can hurt Victor. He withdraws, not out of choice, but survival. Protective walls against abandonment rise. Yet inside, loneliness grows stronger, echoing through empty spaces that long for connection. This quiet conflict, craving attachment while fearing it, becomes the rhythm of Victor's existence, capturing the dilemma faced by many survivors of childhood trauma. Victor's drawings, scattered across moments and memories, are more than mere art. They are lifelines. Victor's mind, fractured by experiences too painful to recall directly, finds refuge in creation. When memories are splintered, compartmentalized, or buried, the drawings take on the role of silent archivists. Through line and color, Victor externalizes what his mind cannot hold safely. The paper becomes a substitute for memory, a ritual of survival, a way to remember without reliving the unbearable. The tragedy deepens when the truth of Eloise emerges. The crayons he clutches once belonged to her. The earliest sketches capturing the town were hers. After her disappearance, Victor absorbed her routines, not in conscious remembrance, but as an unconscious ritual. He carried her memory forward, the act of drawing becoming an invisible thread of mourning. Psychologically, this is known as identity incorporation, a silent inheritance of behaviors, traits, and rituals from those lost to grief. Victor's hand, tracing familiar shapes, is guided by an absence he cannot name. Every drawing, then, is not just survival, but a private elegy, a symbol of attachment lost, memory preserved, and grief expressed in lines no words can explain. To witness Victor's art is to glimpse the delicate architecture of a wounded mind, where pain and hope exist side by side, and creativity becomes both refuge and remembrance. One moment can unravel a lifetime of certainty. When Victor opens the hidden trunk, his world fractures, exposing a reality he never knew he'd lost. Buried among the sketches detailing the town's tragedies, he finds an image that stops him cold. The drawing of himself and Eloise, hands entwined, radiating warmth that echoes with forgotten affection. At that instant, the defensive walls within his mind begin to crumble, revealing the depth of an absence he never consciously sensed. Eloise wasn't just a ghost lingering at the edges of memory. She was a heartbeat in Victor's life, erased so completely by trauma that her existence lived only in his subconscious drawings, clues scattered through the years. It's easy, at first, to dismiss Victor's routines, the careful counting of steps, the persistent measuring of distances, the quiet scrutiny of the trees, as mere eccentric quirks or childlike habits. Yet every action is a symptom, born from necessity rather than whim. Hypervigilance is the mind's fierce response to a world turned unpredictable. Victor is locked in a state of constant alert, his nervous system unable to rest, perpetually scanning for dangers that might suddenly disrupt his fragile order. For him, this vigilance is not paranoia, it is survival. The last time Victor relaxed, the world redefined itself overnight, stripping away everyone he loved, leaving him marooned in chaos. Predictability died with them, and in its place grew rituals, ways to reclaim a small measure of control. Trauma demands we find patterns, even where there are none. Victor's obsessive behaviors are rooted not in madness, but in ache, a longing for certainty and safety. As memories resurface, his rituals are revealed as lifelines, desperately woven to prevent the world from slipping out of reach again. To understand Victor is to see the quiet heroism behind survival, to recognize that beneath the surface, every gesture tells a story of love, loss, and a relentless search for order amid the ruins. Such stories remind us to look deeper and, ultimately, to offer empathy where understanding falters. There are moments when the world feels unpredictable, when safety seems forever just outside our grasp. For Victor, this sensation is not occasional, it is a relentless companion. His compulsive monitoring of his surroundings became more than a habit. It was a shield forged from the memory of catastrophe, a desperate attempt to detect danger before it returned. The irony is cruel. The town he inhabits vindicates his fears. Here the trees truly move. Reality itself bends and shifts, confirming that vigilance is not paranoia, but necessity. Victor's hypervigilance keeps him alive, yet condemns him to an existence where rest and healing are impossible. The nervous system cannot let go. Safety is always conditional, always threatened. Amid this perpetual alertness lies an even darker truth. Victor's mind once buried his sister Eloise so deeply that he lost all memory of her. This is not mere forgetting, but dissociative amnesia, a response so profound that it reorganized Victor's entire internal world around her absence. The pain of losing Eloise was too great to bear consciously. His mind protected itself by erasing her. But as time passes, those barriers begin to crumble. Victor starts recovering fragments of Eloise, then other submerged memories, including the origin of his greatest trauma, the man in yellow. This figure embodies the betrayal that shattered Victor's sense of safety. As a child, Victor had trusted him, believing he was just another victim of the town's cruelty. The moment Victor witnessed the man in yellow consuming Miranda, that trust turned to terror, a betrayal trauma so deep it remains carved into Victor's nervous system decades later. Trauma is complex, its wounds invisible yet persistent. Victor's story reveals how survival can come at great psychological cost. His journey reminds us that healing is not just the absence of danger, but the slow rediscovery of a lost sense of safety, even when the world itself refuses to stand still. A moment arrives, a sound, a shadow, an echo, and Victor's body reacts before his mind can catch up. Muscles tense, breath shortens. The past floods in without warning. This is what psychologists describe as a somatic flashback, the body reliving trauma, long before the mind can even name it. For Victor, memory is not a story he tells. It's a force that overtakes him, unseen and automatic. Victor's relationship with Ethan gently reveals his own emotional arrest, a life paused in time. Ethan embodies all that Victor never had the chance to become. Open-hearted, curious, and full of wonder. Their bond is more than friendship, it is recognition. On some fundamental level, Victor is drawn to Ethan because he, too, remains a child caught between innocence and survival. Trauma halted his growth, freezing him between the worlds of adolescence and adulthood. In every connection, Victor braces for loss. Deep down, he expects Ethan to vanish, because for him, attachment and abandonment have always been entwined. Then, there's the boy in white, a figure who may be supernatural or simply Victor's last hope for connection. He appears when darkness presses in, offering comfort when none can be found elsewhere. For the young Victor trapped in an impossible world, this mysterious presence becomes both guide and anchor, the thread preventing complete collapse into despair. It's unsettling to realize the very forces that imprisoned Victor also became his lifeline. Throughout the narrative, Victor is both witness and keeper, the living memory of a place lost in perpetual suffering. Season after season, his journey echoes a cycle. Forget, remember, reveal. Just as trauma demands not forgetting but integration, Victor's greatest challenge is to accept what he spent a lifetime trying to forget. Healing begins when the story is no longer hidden away, but finally welcomed into the light. Victor Kavanaugh is terrifying, not because of monsters or the town's secrets, but because his pain feels achingly real. Imagine surviving horror as a child, only to spend a lifetime shaped by that moment. Victor remembers Eloise, confronts Henry, uncovers buried drawings, and gradually reclaims the pieces of himself scattered by trauma. Each revelation brings Victor closer to the truth about the man in yellow, guiding him through inner shadows rather than external monsters. Victor learned to survive, but survival is not the same as healing. His body aged, yet part of him remains trapped, forever waiting in the cellar for his mother. And from, the deepest horror is not outside the window, but within, the haunting possibility that trauma can hold someone captive in the past. Victor's story reveals a child who survived, but never truly escaped. The darkness inside him is far more unsettling than what lurks outside. That painful authenticity is what makes Victor unforgettable, inviting us to reflect on our own hidden scars. If you found this exploration compelling, consider subscribing. More content is coming. A breakdown of Victor's journey in Season 4 and in-depth analyses of other haunting characters from